Hi there, and thanks for checking in on this video, where today I want to share something with you that I think is often very much overlooked and given lip service to when we start to think about managing our businesses, because it becomes just one of those things that unfortunately we don't pay enough attention to, but in essence can be frankly one of the most important things that we need to think about when we start thinking about planning for our businesses and how we go forward with that. It's often, there was a saying that I saw some time ago now when I was reading a particular book, in fact the book that I've drawn a lot of this information from that I want to share with you today, and it goes along the lines of saying that it's not how smart or good we are in our business, or it's not about that, it's more about the health of our business that's important. And what it's really saying or trying to say is that unless we really truly understand the core values of our business, then and having our business aligned with that in terms of our people, the sort of clients that we're dealing with, the market that we're actually dealing with, all of those stars aligning around our values, then we will unfortunately have this disparity and tension that arises. So understanding that is one of the key things in terms of how we structure and how we develop and form our businesses. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about the different types of values, because I've been in this space now, working in business now for over 30 years, and one of the things that I've found often is that we tend to give this whole area of values, what are our values, our core values, a little bit of lip service, as I said earlier. It's just not given enough deep thought. And when I look at some of the, if I ask the question of people, what do you consider to be your core values? I'll typically get the response of, I'm honest, we act with integrity, and we basically do, we're professional. So, and they're really not strong enough for mine when I look at them. In fact, to the extent that they're not really even values that I wouldn't think any person that I was wanting to have any dealings with would have anyway. Liken it, if you like, to going to a doctor. When we go to a doctor, we like to think that, the person is there, the doctor is qualified, we don't even question that, and that they're there to help solve and diagnose my problem so that I can actually get better. So we don't tend to go into dealing with any of those things. So when we start talking about values like integrity and honesty and respect and all these sort of things, which I commonly find, to me they're just those ones that I would automatically think we'd have anyway. Why would I want to deal with somebody that wasn't honest, for example? Why would I feel comfortable dealing with somebody that I didn't even respect? So for me, they're just values that don't differentiate us in any way, shape or form. So we've got to think a little bit more deeply about this, and the implications in doing so are that we can start to use those values and what I'm calling your core values as key differentiators in terms of identifying ourselves out in the marketplace. And certainly from a client's perspective, if it's very clear what our core values are and they can identify with those, obviously we're going to attract more of those types of people. If again we're clear with our people that we're looking to recruit and working with us, if it's very clear about what our core values are, we'll start to get some very nice clean alignment or strong alignment from our employees around those things, and we'll certainly be able to recruit actively for those. So understanding these core values is quite key in terms of really differentiating ourselves in the marketplace. Unfortunately, it's not easy to identify them. So, and again, that's one of the reasons perhaps that people don't go to this level of depth when they start to think about it. So I just want to start, and this is actually what I'm talking to you about now has come from a book called The Advantage, Why Organisational Health Trumps Everything Else in a Business. And it's been written by a fellow by the name of Patrick Lencioni. So if you can get hold of the book, if you're interested in this sort of thing, I'd certainly encourage you to pick it up, because there's a lot of things. This is just one aspect of the book, that I want to share with you today. There's a lot more, but for me, this was one of the key pieces when I read that book that came out of it for me, that helped me a lot in understanding values a lot better. It certainly helped me take it from just being an exercise that we do to one that actually has some true meaning around it. So I just want to walk you through in this next few minutes the breakup of the different types of values that there are, and understand where those values fit, and give us a bit of a framework. Hopefully a 3-step process is what I want to walk you through. This 3-step process to help you workshop for yourself what your values might be, and certainly in understanding that what your core values might be. So I'll introduce that 3-step process to you as we go along. But before we do that, I need to talk to you a little bit about what these different types of values are. So just give some definition around those for you. So the first one that I want to look at in terms of the valuations is the concept of the fact that we have a number, 4 different types of values. So we have permission to play values, we have aspirational values, and we have accidental values, and in the center of all of that we have our core values. So just to explain each of those to you a little bit more, the aspirational values are essentially ones that have characteristics in the organisation that we want to have. So they're ones that we aspire to. They may not necessarily exist in the business right now, but they're things that we would like to think in the future that we can develop. So they're actually they're actively worked on type values in the business that we wish we already had them, but not there yet. And we think though that we have the capacity or the intent, if you like, or the energy to start to create those in our business to help maximise our success in our business. The second type of value is what we call accidental. So these are values that are evident in our organisation, but they've come around in unintentionally. So these can be good and they can be bad. So I've had examples here where for example, particular employees with strong personalities, and they've often perhaps been around for a little while as well, where they start to have quite a major influence over the overall culture that's developed in the business, the practices that develop in the business, and at its worst, it could be that they're almost holding the business to ransom to the extent that they understand the power that they're holding in terms of their position and the way they're going about things. So that's where an accidental value like that could become quite caustic and certainly not productive in the business, but it's one that obviously can pervade, and if it's not dealt with, can be quite detrimental and dangerous if it's let develop. There can be positive ones though, like in accidental values. So it might be that we've employed people in the business through the course of time that have brought with them some particular strengths that we maybe weren't necessarily actively looking for, and those strengths have developed and grown and attracted and helped the business move forward over the course of time. So understanding and identifying those values can be quite important, because if we can capture them and leverage them, and certainly actively grow them within the business, we can be creating a very strong culture that effectively could form part of our core at the extreme. The next type of value, and this is the one that I was probably talking about earlier when I say we talk about integrity and honesty and respect and these sort of things. For mine, they're nothing more than what we're calling here permission to play type values. They're basically minimum standards that we would expect to have in our business if we're going to have any dealings with us. So, and again, using my doctor analogy, a permission to play there is that the doctor is qualified to be there consulting to me about my particular problem. I don't expect to have to go in to a consult with a doctor and start with that consult by asking questions like, can you give me a bit of background on your qualifications? Have you got experience in dealing in these sort of matters? So they're just permission to play type values, and ones that we would expect normally to have. So, and the unfortunate thing is that I think these are the easy go-to ones that we think when we're developing our organisational values that will be ones that are going to connect strongly with our audience and our employees when we're talking about them. But they're nothing more than permission to play, so they're just expected of us, so they're not really strong differentiators at all when we start to think about, and to the extent that I question even having them sit anywhere on our value statements at all, because to me they just should be the case. So the key one is the core, and isolating the core. This is where it does get a little bit difficult, because we're starting to move into perhaps some less logical, tangible sort of areas when we try and discover what these things are. But these are traits that are inherent in our business. They're just natural, and in small business they'll typically be coming from the owners or the founders of the business. You can sort of, if you wanted to sort of do some more reading on this, you could go back to the Walmarts. There's been a lot of research and documentation on the Walmart organisation. The core values of that organisation are inherent in that business today as much as they were when they founded that business. So, it's these things typically ride the course of time, and they'll often be attributed back to the owners or the founders of the business. They've started out with these particular core values, and understanding those can be extremely powerful in terms of trying to help us establish a differentiated position in the marketplace for people like we're trying to recruit, or our clients and the like, as I said earlier. So in terms of how do we actually go about this? So it's really a 3-step process. So the first thing that we need to do in terms of workshopping this for ourselves and helping identify the core values for ourselves is to, first of all, identify employees in the organisation that actually embody what is best about our company. So they may be, hopefully they're people that we've still got in our business, but they may be people in the past that we've had in our business. But what are the actual qualities of those people that make them so admired in our business? So, and this is physically sitting down and grabbing a sheet of paper and in your mind working and documenting what some of those things are. So just write the list down. So if you're watching this video and you actually want to do this as you're going along, I would pause the video right now and grab your piece of paper and a pen and physically go through that. If you're sitting around the table with a few of your other people watching this video, grab them as well and start to brainstorm what it is about those employees. You don't need to disclose who they are, you may wish to, but think about, brainstorm, what are the qualities of those people that make them so admired in the business. So again, if you're actually doing this right here and now, pause the video and physically go through that exercise before we move on to the second step. The second step in the process is to identify employees that, although they're talented, they're no longer good for our business or a good fit for our business. So this, again, might be people who are in the past that have been there, no longer there for whatever reason. But, and you see this so often, you see it a lot where you can just see the talent in people. It oozes out of them, but they're just not aligned. They're just simply not there. And trying to pinpoint what is it about them that makes them not aligned, because again, when we're recruiting, we often recruit for qualifications and skills. So we put a lot of emphasis on understanding whether or not they even qualify to do the job for us. We don't put a lot of effort into the softer part of, are they aligned, for example? Will they fit our culture? Although I'd have to say in recent times that's certainly becoming a little bit more evident, and people are paying a lot more attention to that, and that's a good thing. So step 2, as I said, is understanding or trying to brainstorm what is it about those people that make them such a distraction or a problem in our business. So again, you may not want to disclose the name of that person if you're working in a group, but try and identify in your mind who those sort of people are or have been, and what is it about those people that no longer makes them such a distraction or not a fit for us anymore. So again, step 2, it's a time to, if you're doing this as you're working through the video, pause the video right now and start to add these things to your list as you're working through it. Step 3 is where we want to be looking more back at ourselves now. If we are the leaders of our business, then we need to start getting honest about ourselves and whether or not we embody the values. So again, I do see this a lot in business. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Business owners often have this sort of position in their mind that, well, it's my business, so I get to say. So it's almost a situation of do as I say, not as I do. So we need to be, as leaders of our business, showing up in the way that is consistent with what we're identifying as being some of these core things that we expect of the people that we're working with, and certainly when we're trying to attract clients, making sure we fulfill or we mirror the image it is that we're looking to project out to them. So this is an exercise where we're looking more back at ourselves and we're saying, well, if we've identified these things that we want and we've identified these things that are the distraction, then do we actually show up these things? So in ourselves when we show up in our business. So that's the exercise really of identifying our organisational values. So the thing about step 2, just to reflect for a moment on there, is it's often the flip side of those things. So if those things are particularly that we've identified as distractions or make them a problem, try and turn that 180 degrees and say, well, okay, if that's what it is that we don't want, what is it that we would want in that? So, and then we can mirror whether or not that exists in our organisation at all. So use that 3-step process and to help you identify the values for you in your business, in your practice, because that exercise can be so powerful in trying to help you develop your messages that you want for your business, that you want to put out there. So again, your things like your media, your website, if you're using digital media, social media, making sure it reflects that sort of stuff. In our recruitment processes, it's important that these organisational values are clear, so that we're attracting the right people. But importantly, in our processes of recruiting them, we need to know, have a good understanding and process of trying to discover just how well those employees or those potential employees are aligned. In the marketplace with our customers, we're always going to enjoy working with customers who are aligned. So the frustrations and tension always comes when we feel like we're pushing business out to people. If we are very clear in the marketplace about what we stand for, the thing is that we will actually attract like type customers, and that's of extremely powerful position to actually get yourself into. You become the authority in the marketplace around a lot of these aspects. So I commend that process to you. Again, if you want to pick up and read a little bit more about that, pick up the book by Patrick Lencioni. It's basically called The Advantage, and it's a very good read, and I think it would be extremely helpful for you in trying to understand things like this and a lot of other aspects of your business. So thank you for watching, and I hope there's been something in this 3-step process for you, and I encourage you to go and do the exercise. Thank you for watching.